Alright mates, how's it going? In today's video, chapter 15 of Rise of the Horde by Christy Golden. This one's going to be a bit short unfortunately, but hopefully it's gruesome enough that it's acceptable. Let's go! Durotan quickly shoved the city veiling crystal into his pack, alongside the red and yellow ones, mounted and rode with grim determination. Although he'd made a private vow to himself that he was not going to attack an unarmed foe or child, this was still very much a kill or be killed situation, especially since the orcish war party had wasted no time entering the city and already sliced their way through several peeps. Durotan couldn't help but wonder how the city of Telmor had received no advanced warning of the orcs' approach. They had scouts after all. One could only assume that they were complacent, that they'd never even considered the possibility that someone could breach their super complicated light manipulating magic. But even though the orcs may have caught them unawares to begin with, it didn't take long for the city guards of Telmor to counterattack. In fact, Durotan turned in his saddle barely in time to deflect a sudden blow from a sword, and once again he was filled with shock as he recognised his attacker, and Restalan recognised him too. But he didn't give a shit this time. All debts between them were paid, so he immediately grabbed Durotan, yanked him off his wolf and threw him to the ground, and then raised his sword. Luckily, or unluckily, depending on how you want to look at it, Durotan's wolf Night Stalker was trained almost as well as Durotan himself. The beast whirled towards Restalan the moment it felt its rider's absence, and bit down hard on the Draenei's arm. And that little distraction allowed Durotan to regain his bearings, swing his axe as hard as he could and slam it right into Restalan's midsection. And just to rub salt in the wound, Night Stalker went ahead and ripped the Draenei's arm off, because why not? And the captain of the guards of Telmor was now the captain of the guards of No More. But Durotan did not permit himself regret. He just got back on Night Stalker and sought out his next target. There was still Draenei aplenty to slaughter. The rage boiling inside him felt kinda good. His senses were heightened. The air was filled with cries of bloodlust, of fear and terror, the sounds of battle, and the smells of blood and piss and poop. Durotan then sensed his next target, because they were suddenly right next to him, so he bellowed his clan's war cry, raised his axe, and turned to face them, only to see a child, screaming in fury as she tore with bare hands at his armoured leg. But Durotan halted his axe mid-swing. He'd vowed to not harm a child. That was not the code. That was not the way of the orcs. But a lot of good that did, because a shattered hand orc then impaled the child with a spear from behind, and tossed her body aside as if it were nothing. "You owe me one, Frostwolf." And then he was gone, presumably to murder a whole bunch more children. And Durotan threw his head back and cried. Mainly he cried out to the ancestors, but also he just full-blown cried. The next few hours played out pretty much as you'd expect them to. Draenei was slaughtered, the streets were caked in blue blood, the city had fallen. Durotan approached the largest building, the Magister's house, the place where he and Orgrim had eaten dinner with the Prophet. Not much of a prophet, if he'd not foreseen this black moment, Durotan thought. Night Stalker just kind of wandered off up the steps, and Durotan was kind of curious himself, so he moved forward. As Durotan entered the Magister's seat and peered through the many doorways in the corridor, he saw ransacked rooms. Some empty, some crammed full of adult orc warriors absolutely trashing the place. Enough. But no one listened. Orcs continued to just punch holes in walls for the pleasure of it, and throw fruit around for no reason. Enough. This time, Orgrim heard his friend and halted his warriors. A Warsong representative came to his senses and calmed his peeps as well, and Drekthar managed to soothe the warlocks. "Listen, we have taken the city. It's now time to take what we need from it." The orcs were indeed listening now. Finally. "First we attend to the injured. We will not leave our brethren to suffer in the streets." Guilt flashed across a number of faces, and Durotan realised with disgust that many of these warriors had completely lost all empathy for their own people. Completely forgotten that there were still orcs writhing in pain outside whilst they'd been enjoying pissing in plant pots and stuff. But he pushed his feelings down and nodded to Drekthar. Warlocks don't have healing spells, but they had once been shaman. They at least knew how to tend to wounds in a more mundane fashion. So Drekthar motioned to the other casters and they hurried outside. "Next, the city has supplies the likes of which we've never seen. There's food, weapons, armour, other things we don't even understand. Things that will serve the Horde in its quest to..." Durotan couldn't even bring himself to finish that sentence. In its quest to wipe out the Draenei. In its quest. We are an army. An army marches on its stomach. We need to be well fed, well watered, healed, rested, protected. Orgrim, you take a group and start at this end. Guthor, you take a group and head back to the gates. Work your way up the main road until you meet Orgrim's group. And anyone who has any healing knowledge, report to Drekthar and do exactly what he tells you to do. What should we do if we find any Draenei still alive? 'Twas a good question. What indeed? The orcs did not have any kind of infrastructure to take care of prisoners. Hell, the only purpose of a prisoner would be for negotiation, so there wasn't really much point in the Horde taking any. Their entire goal was total extermination of the Draenei. Kill them. Kill them all. And so, the orcs went ahead and did those things. And Durotan found himself wishing that Nightstalker had not been so quick to protect him. If Restylane had won in that battle, he never would have had to say the words that he just uttered. And we're leaving it there! I do feel for Durotan. I mean, I think he's made some questionable decisions, and I don't necessarily agree that he has absolutely no choice in the situation. But standing up against it wouldn't really achieve that much. He'd just get his clan killed and then the orcs would carry on slaughtering Draenei. Link in the description if you're interested in buying the book, as well as for my Discord and my Patreon too. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!